think it's actually that Seattle apartments are underpriced.
Hey! Wow.
Little flag.
How much did he pay?
As he slides the 20 underneath the table.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's Jerrid Anderson. Today I've gathered some of the industry titans in the commercial real estate world here in Seattle, each with their own specific niche they focus on. I'll introduce Jake Wilson with Crux Lending, specializing in mortgage brokerage. David Gellner, he's a commercial real estate retail broker and he works at Kidder Matthews. And Derek Pedersen over at Hughes Marino, doing some leasing in the office industrial sector, as well as some investment sales. We would do more investment sales, mortgage, leasing. I'm curious, I guess I'll ask you first, but buyers and sellers, how do you suss out, like, you know now, like right when you walk in the room or pick the phone, who's real or not? How do you know?
It's just a gut feel at this point. But I mean, I don't know how everyone else approaches the business, but I always like to take the frame of like, just put it all on the table, right?
Yeah.
Like, not have this conversation with whether it's a buyer or a seller and say, you know, we go through our proposals or what their outcomes are and say, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
You know, why is this important to you and what's the goal?
Yeah.
And usually as you move through the whole process, you can figure out, you know, someone, if they're not real, a buyer or seller, they're going to say, oh, well, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Or, you know, this sounds great. And then, well, are the expectations way out of line?
Yeah.
You know, and then I'll just say, hey, the market doesn't provide what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so really having those kind of transparent, blunt conversations is, you just have to have it because, you know, we talk to people all the day and say, hey, I have 10 million or 20 million I want to place and I want this. And then you send them a couple deals and if you don't get feedback, that's a good indicator.
Right. Yeah.
If they say, oh, that one's not for me. Well, what didn't you like about it?
Yeah.
Why?
Yep.
You know? And so I didn't do that when I first started.
Yeah.
Right. Because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But now it's a slower, more methodical approach.
Yeah.
You can just tell.
For me, it's definitely specificity. Like you said, if they can tell me why not, it's way more helpful than just a no, a flat out. So I think specificity has been really important for me, vetting people and speed.
Yeah.
Right? Speed. One of my favorite questions that pigeonholes most everyone that's not real is I'm like, do you want to look at like high return, high risk properties or low return, low risk? And usually the answer is like, well, neither.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you got to give something up.
Yeah.
We want high return, low risk property. They don't exist. Right. So that's a pretty funny
One of my other favorite questions, like if we're talking buyer specific, is what have you seen that you really liked that you wish you would have?
Oh, that's good.
And a lot of times they'll say, well, I haven't seen anything, or I can't think of it. And so that's a pretty big indicator.
I'll say, when did you write your last offer?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Never have.
Yeah.
I'll let you go F around with some of my competitors
Right. Yeah.
and get serious comeback.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you? I mean, who doesn't want to get pre-qualified by Crux?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's usually part of it, right? Is like, who's actually sitting their personal documentation?
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
real question. Anyone can send us property-specific information, but once we get that PFS, now they're serious.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and so there's that. And then to your point, also, frank, you know, direct, brutal conversations is usually part of it. You know, and the other thing that helps us is they're having usually a different conversation with us than they are the brokers, right? So we're able to suss it out pretty quickly on if there's a real deal there to be had or if they're just tire kickers.
Yeah. Right. And leveraging yourself has been really helpful for us because we think we got someone that's real and you're like, I've had 3 calls, no financials. Like, I just don't think they're going to really take the next step. So why chase or tour all these properties when we know, even if they structure an offer, they're not, at least now, liquid enough to pursue an opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe their expectations are out of alignment.
Yeah.
Right? With reality of today's financing terms. And that's part of the fact-finding process that we go through earlier on.
Yeah.
Is, hey, here's what the expectations should be.
Yeah.
how does that sit with you? You know, and then
You can tell pretty quickly.
exactly.
What
On
on
my
the
end,
leasing
yeah,
side,
I mean,
yeah.
it's businesses, so it's not, we're not buying like 12 office buildings, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's usually one and done kind of deal. So I look for pre-approval, closer relationship with, a guy like Jake or maybe a lender they have, and, a pre-approval letter, especially in 21 and 22, like you needed that to get a seat at the table
Yeah.
for any deal.
And just, I mean, I actually don't know this. I'm guessing the audience wouldn't as well, but like, what are they pre-approved for? Is it like a business
Purchase
loan?
price for to acquire like an office building or something.
Gotcha. What about someone that's doing leasing? Like, what are you looking for to vet them?
Well, I'm usually only calling on tenants that are, in institutional landlord buildings. If I call a tenant that's in a mom and pop building in Kent, where like he's probably not going to pay a commission kind of deal, and they've been there for 40 years.
Yeah.
They're a stone company. They're probably not going to move, kind of deal. So I'm not going to pay on the renewal or the move.
Yeah.
Versus like 3PL or like there's someone who just uses distribution use in a warehouse. And they've been multiple locations over the last 15 years. You can kind of look at that data and be like, okay, this is a real lead.
I just wonder how to convert, like, for example, Kidder Matthews has been in the same office space since
Totally.
the year I was born was when
Yeah,
it was built,
yeah.
right?
To each his own for sure.
Yeah, like, I don't know how like this person's really considering doing something different. Is it
But we
more
get paid the
growth?
same. We get paid on renewals too.
Okay.
So, yeah. So a renewal is pretty equivalent to a new deal for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
how often do you have to get financials from the tenant to then provide to the landlord?
For leasing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, more so, less so now. Now we kind of have the landlords by the proverbial balls. Well, you want to look into their books to see, make sure they're solvent. This building's not going to go back to the bank, 2 years into our lease.
Yeah.
Usually depends. I mean, if the landlord can recognize the brand and everything, then, never. But if it's, some group that, hey, we know nothing about this company, yeah, shoot us over the last 3 year P&Ls in a balance sheet, just for, peace of mind.
Yeah.
But the security deposit is usually only 1 month's rent on all these deals. So
And what about, I mean, you just brought up a really good point, which is they're now asking for the landlord's books.
Yeah.
How long ago did that change, and
Cool.
how often does that happen?
yeah, never. Started happening like mid 22.
Really?
Yeah. And that the tenant has to have some weight in the market. They have to be, a sizable tenant, 20,000 square feet or above, probably, taking up a couple floors of an office building or something. Like a 2,000 square foot tenant, you're never going to open up the books of a landlord, like pound sand.
Yeah.
So the tenant has to have some leverage too.
Yeah.
What's the main concern? So if it does go back to the bank, aren't they protected?
The security deposit's probably at risk, and all
Yeah.
those lease payments. And you got to find a new home. It's disruptive.
Probably the TIs too,
See,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
A lot of this, especially any out-of-pocket costs. Yeah.
Yeah.
The tenant just kind of has to write that off. Yeah.
But their lease would still be in place, right, with the SNDA and
Yeah. You'd think, but it's really up to whoever, takes ownership of that building. The SNDA, that we obviously fight for that in all of our leases with our tenants. But if they don't have that in place, then you're kind of at risk.
have you seen a lender take over and start booting tenants? Or
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a fear.
Yeah,
Not
but that's
yet.
only been exactly. We're like 15 months in, so who knows what could happen? But yeah.
Switching a little bit to the market, what's something that you believe right now that is not a popular belief?
Retail is going to be the darling child for the
Let's
next
go.
5 years.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Let's go.
I feel pretty confident on that.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
so here's why.
Please.
How long do you have?
Or should I just leave it like that? So obviously apartments, industrial have been probably number 1 and 2 for a long time.
Yeah.
I think in this environment that we're seeing now, and from owning apartments as well, what I'm seeing is rent growth is stagnating or decreasing. So you have that dynamic. And the other dynamic that no one's ever really focused on, because in my world I hear a lot of, the increase is only 10% every 5 years, right? Like that's a typical increase, or 10, 12, 15%. That's not keeping up with inflation. Well, somewhat, but in retail we have triple net leases. So all the operating expenses typically are billed back and reimbursed by the tenants.
Yeah.
And so I think with this dynamic that I'm seeing where you have a lot of stagnation in apartment world, and then operating costs increasing, that's where the squeeze is happening. And so it's not just about growing top line revenue, it's protecting your downside from everyone's operating expenses are going up.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the main thing. And then the second thing is retail. What I see happening in the office world right now has a lot of similarities to what happened in retail 10 years ago.
So it already happened. And
now we just didn't have a pandemic that just smacked us and knocked us in the jaw. It was more gradual and staggered for 10 years with the internet. When the internet came out, people were saying, everyone's going to go, no one's going to buy clothes online. You want to try it on. And it morphed over time, and now everyone buys clothes online, and returns them. But throughout that process, retail morphed into something so much better and stronger, which is food and service oriented. And so now it's, people still think retail's selling clothes or soft goods, and there is a component of that for sure. Yeah. But the overwhelming majority is food and service and like absolutely essential needs. Yeah. And so I think retail's never been stronger since I've been in the business on a fundamental basis because of that, what they went through for 10 years. And then thirdly is, at least in Washington State, it's incredibly difficult to build retail. And so the cost basis for a lot of these assets, you're buying, everything's pretty much below construction costs these days. Yeah. But just the availability of land in our area to build these things is just
in the right zoning.
Yeah, it's just almost non-existent. Yeah. So
right on. Jake, I think you have some unpopular beliefs.
A lot of them. I was thinking about this. So I think it's actually that Seattle apartments are underpriced.
Hey! Wow.
There you go.
Little flag.
How much did he pay?
As he slides the 20 underneath the table.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I'm serious though. If you look at it, you're seeing a lot of price per units that are below other surrounding markets. And it's shocking to me. There's obviously the stigma associated with re-tenanting the space or increasing rents, but when you break it down to what those requirements are, it's not what everyone thinks it is. Yeah. And I think that right now is an unpopular belief, but I believe it is 100% accurate.
Yeah. I'll piggyback on that one. I don't know if you guys ever heard, but I sell apartments in Seattle, and
really
think they're the best thing you can do. But like the year started out, my partner Dylan and I like to do some investing on the side, and so we started looking at other markets, trying to pick like what's the next big boom market. Kansas City. We talked about Oklahoma City. We looked in Albuquerque. These are all things we're hearing through our grapevine of investors, and we're like, okay, let's go figure out how to make deals work. And so I was like, how do we simplify determining where the highest value markets are? And I was like, what if we just said, what's the price per unit I can buy for, and what's the average rent, right? You could just do a comparison, all these markets. And we looked out broadly, a couple thousand miles away from home, to places we don't understand. And we looked back in our backyard after a few sales this year. I'm like, the best ratio is actually right here. Rents are $1,800 and I can buy for $200 a unit. Like that's pretty incredible. Kansas City, I think, was buy a unit for $155, rent it for $1,200. Quick math, percentage wise, you're lower. And so we just started looking into it. And it's like, you know what? On a basis perspective, it's cheapest of any buildings I've ever sold this year. Yeah, interest rates are tough and we don't know when they'll improve, but Seattle's high demand. Like the renters, the tenants, they want to be here. I hear from my clients about the regulations. I'm like, they don't care. You care, but they don't care.
If you're actually in the
right?
weeds.
They're like, I want to live in that city. That. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about it. What about yourself? What's your unpopular belief? Tenant rep
I'd have to
is
say,
back.
Tenant rep's always there, man. I'd have to say small bay industrial facilities. Yeah. Like we're talking like 3 to 10,000 square foot units, which the vacancy across the Pedersen right now is like sub 1% for that type of product. And they're not building new product of that right now. It's only a lot of obviously big stuff down in like Lacey and Centralia and then Marysville and Arlington, obviously, because economies of scale, it's just way cheaper to build a bigger building like that. But and then small bay industrial, and then because the rents are super high and there's a ton of uses. Like a lot of guys you ever heard of like garage condos or yeah, so Denver and Arizona, those are blowing up right now because guys just want like literal man caves.
Well, I guess explain it to us. What's
Well,
a garage condo?
I'm looking to do it myself.
What would yours look like?
Right.
I think we're sitting in one.
I probably have it. Yeah, exactly. Get a gym and this little work from home setup, but you got your cars in there. You got, I mean, a lot of guys. Again, it's like 8,000 square feet, and these developers are making a killing on it.
So you get your like office in there,
like pre-leasing, yeah.
Your cars, your gym.
Is that similar to like a contractor garage or like contractor space? Because I've heard about this as well, and I'm just wondering.
Yeah, again, I'm pretty new to this way. I'm looking into it, but I just know like everything's pre-leased.
Yeah.
So there's just a huge demand for it.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure how well known it is, but like Las Vegas, Phoenix, and Denver, I know are like top 3 markets for that kind of product. Less so here in Puget Sound, but just personal use, big industrial bays.
But imagine I host clients in our office. It's got a great view.
You can host events.
It's our current office.
But
it's an office space. I'm like picturing this world where we've got some virtual golf, and some like fun things that people want to do.
Whatever.
I don't know. I don't need to be like full blown tech, but have it designed the way we want it. Like you did a big build out. I think your office is pretty sweet. You guys built 1 square feet under permissible bar, and it's like a party room.
Yeah.
An electric violinist just tearing it up in there.
Measure it. It's like everyone come check us
in Spokane, right?
Oh, yeah.
Check it out.
Edit that.
For sure.
No, but are they pre-leasing them or are they selling them?
I guess the industrial condos are selling those.
But someone might retain the building and just lease them.
But they're selling them usually. You're right. But I guess, guys like the industrial feel, the polished concrete, and kind of a more rugged setup to have everything all at one place, away from like their home or their business.
I like that.
Yeah.
What who do you learn from now in your career? You've been after it for 15 years. Like, who do you learn from?
What I like to do is I like to talk to people that I respect, obviously, quite a bit. And then I like to take pieces of what they, have learned through their career and different advice they have for me based on what they see and hear from me, and apply those things in strategic ways to our operations.
Yeah.
So, and it may even be, that I'm watching a video from a hedge fund owner and I'm gleaning something from him and applying that to it that may be completely different in what he's talking about to the way I implement it. However, I like to take it a little bit from a lot of people and apply them to our specific way.
Yeah.
And do it in that manner personally. I don't know that there's any one specific person.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I think the intent of the question is to really succeed in this industry and push yourself, especially from an income perspective. You have to keep growing. Like we're always pushing ourselves. As far as our competitors go, at least for myself, I'm decades younger than some of the people I compete with, and they have decades more experience, and I routinely am able to maybe edge them out because the constant improvement. I don't know where you find kind of some of your sources.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I like Twitter, so
love Twitter.
I think it's pretty amazing. And if I could go back in time and have a Twitter where without that, or even the internet, like LinkedIn, like what you're doing here is like sharing information. There was none of that.
Yeah.
Like literally none of that online, where someone who doesn't know about a certain subject or brokerage, now it's all out there.
Yeah.
And you're hearing from people who are like this guy, Bob Knackel in New
he's
York.
Legit. Yeah.
I mean, he's the GOAT, right?
Knackle Nuggets, man.
The GOAT
Knackle
of
Nuggets.
brokerage. And it's so crazy because you think, we only know what we know, but it's like, I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, then you go and hear what this man has been able to do, and you're like, I'm not even I have so much farther to go.
Yeah.
And it's incredible that he'll hop on a podcast for an hour or do a space where people ask him questions, and like, it's just a pretty amazing time to be alive.
Yeah.
Where people willingly are sharing what they know out in the open, and you're hearing directly from someone who's actually done what you're trying to learn about.
Yeah. I think for me, like Jake mentioned, there's unlimited resources, but for me, I've actually learned probably the most from the residential sector. Right or wrong, when I think about our industry, it doesn't involve commercial real estate brokerage much at all, because the people that get in and get good stay for a long time. It doesn't force much innovation. Residential, yes, call them resi-commercial brokers, are some of my least favorite people to deal with. But as an industry as a whole, they probably have 10 to 20 times the brokers, depending on which market. So a lot more investment dollars going into improving systems and everything else. So I found a lot of inspiration from like Gary Keller and other residential brokers on how to build.
Yeah.
Because commercial brokerage is so much more, lone wolf mentality, I think.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with all you guys. I think right now my focus, from Alex Hermosi. Yeah.
You set him
Yeah.
to me.
He's just legit. I mean, I saw him in 2018, I think, and he was on his way for sure. Young guy, but he's, talks about growing businesses and how to scale businesses. And as a commercial real estate broker, obviously we're all 1099. So you kind of have to take your broker hat off sometimes and, hey, you're a business owner, you're an operator. How would you run this thing? What systems would you, put into place? So that's where my head is right now, delegating the right way and making sure I'm as efficient as possible. And really thinking as a business, as an owner of a business rather than, hey, I'm an employee at a brokerage shop.
Yeah.
So
one of my biggest takeaways from Hermosi was like, he knows the types of businesses he can grow. I think it's 3 million in revenue or something.
Yeah, he'd
he's
be
like,
over 3 million.
He's like, I'll help you for free.
Because he knows those guys.
Everyone wants to hire him.
Totally.
He's like, no. Like once you've done it on your own and proved it to you and yourself and me, then I can coach you and get you to the 10.
Because he knows 0 to 3, like
so many are gonna crap out.
So many crap out. They don't have what it takes, kind of deal. 3 million, like that guy knows what he's doing. Let me just,
That helped me with, like we were talking about earlier, how to vet, like, is this person real?
Yeah.
And frankly,
Totally.
everyone needs to get a start somewhere in investing, but like, I'm not going to be their guy. With all the hand holding, I'm like, once you've done a $5 million deal, I'm like, oh, you got the money, you've taken the risk, you've probably taken some hits.
Right.
Now I'm ready, I can help you because I'm really good in the $5 to $30 million space. So
I was reading a funny or good stat the other day. Again, who knows how real it is, but 2.5% of people take action on something the first time they read it or learn it. 2.5%, which is nothing. Yeah. So it just goes to show, like, again, people, because I think the brokerage has been very archaic in the way of information sharing. Keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Everything's in a silo.
Yeah.
Don't share information. That's all you have. But like, let's be honest, you can give away all the golden nuggets. 95% of people aren't going to do anything.
yes, it's just a lot of work.
It's totally.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's nothing new under the sun. And I think, the reason why we're all sitting here right now is because we're continuing to stay curious and continuing to learn.
Yeah.
So
last couple questions we'll do around on when you first got in the industry, which of the 4 F's were you looking for? The fame, fortune, family, or freedom?
I think for me, brokerage has always been, I got it into this space and basically hooked on it and addicted to it because I wanted to be an investor.
Yeah.
And so my thought process was, well, if I can go work with investors, that's a start. And then the income potential of brokerage seems pretty good.
Right.
And it is pretty good if you do it right.
Yeah.
And so those two things, having the capital to buy your own deals, for me, I don't know which one of those that would be, but
sounds like a little fortune.
a little fortunate.
Yeah. I'm the same. It was fortune. I mean, I came from a smaller town. I joke, I didn't know like people sold the buildings, like the big ones. I thought the government did it.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working my first bigger deal, like they're letting me do this. This is crazy.
Right.
So for me, it was fortune. I didn't have money. I hadn't made money, and I liked the idea of it. And I remember seeing a couple of checks at my first brokerage shop, not for me, but for other people. And like $300,000, and I was like, it's not real. Like some way it gets like torn up and they get like a lot less. And so I went and talked to these guys. I'm like, what happens after you get that check? They're like, I cash it. And I'm like, you shitting me?
Yeah.
So for sure, fortune to get me going because I was scraping twigs together.
This is just a question I'll just ask. Have you guys seen anyone who is not money motivated succeed at a high level in this industry?
Absolutely not.
I don't think I have either.
No. But I have seen people that maybe desire something else.
Once they reach the top, though.
Yeah.
ish, or to reach the proverbial
But there's
top.
some that I think are fantastic, and they're like fame, like paper. They want the biggest deals, have their name out there. Like,
Oh, right, for sure. Yeah.
And I have even seen some, when I say like family, that maybe they're working at a bank and making $125 a year and supporting their family, but really seeing how limited their lifestyle is.
Yeah.
And so they come here, yes, the fortune, but the driving like penultimate factor was to change their family's lifestyle.
Totally.
You got a family?
Yeah, I mean, well, when I got in the industry, it was before the family, but it's definitely fortunate. I mean, I've always been driven by money at the end of the day, you know. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different than that. Not that I'm not money motivated at all. I'm definitely that. However, the end goal, I think, for most brokers ends up being freedom at the end of the day. Right.
Optionality.
Yeah.
So you start out fortune. What was like, you know, did you have like a dream board or something? Like, I want to have that. You know, like for me, I was like, I want to have my own house in this expensive ass city.
I mean, well, at a certain point, it was, if I don't buy a commercial building, I don't feel like a man. You know? I mean, it's just the truth, right? Like, we're in the industry.
Yeah.
You got to own a commercial building.
Yeah.
So I don't know what point that was, but, you know, that was a big one for me personally.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
What are you, Derek?
I'm not gonna fortune for sure. And it's funny looking back, like early in my career, why are you gonna like be sheepish about it, to say like the money.
Yeah.
I was like, I love, you know, I'm passionate about, like, I would just make up a bunch of stuff, but like the money for sure was a leading indicator.
Everyone's LinkedIn profile their first
It's
year.
like,
I am here to
it's
help
like, dude, you don't know
other people realize their dreams.
Right. It's like, stop. So, because my junior year to college, a guy in my fraternity took us to Coeur d'Alene on his stepdad's private jet. Never been, obviously, a very blue collar background, like, just none of that in my life, right? And so I was like, what is this? What's your dad do? You know?
Yeah.
He's like, and at the time I was like, I had no idea what senior vice president, I didn't know what vice president meant. I'm like, he's a vice president. But yeah, got us hours on a private jet. I'm like, dude, what's he do? He's like, all he does is commercial leasing at CBRE or whatever. And I'm like, what's that?
Yeah.
And so one thing led to another. But yeah, as the initial, like, put me in the business for sure.
Yeah.
Chasing money. Because I always had big dreams and aspirations, especially like in college and everything. But I didn't know what the vehicle was going to be. And I knew commercial estate, that was very high ticket. So, winning a 2K deal is the same as winning a 200K deal most oftentimes. So, that was my probably initial foray.
Yeah. So it sounds like mostly fortune, which makes sense. And since we're all shifted towards the freedom, which I think comes from the investment. I think we all own investment properties. Seems to be multifamily. If you guys need a broker, let me know. So going back to when we got in, I'll say 22-year-old, but we all started at a slightly different age. What advice are you giving young David?
Well, other than the proximity is power, I think that's huge. But
Yeah.
you can still succeed if you're driven and hungry enough. I think it's so cliche, and I feel like, can I not offer any better advice? But I truly believe those that succeed and those don't do the principles. And the principles in our business are the calling and the follow-up.
Yeah.
And it is really that simple.
Yeah.
You can be the smartest person in the world. You can
Yeah.
write the best emails, but if you're not getting after it and in front of enough people over a consistent period of time, you're just not going to succeed.
Yeah.
And that's, at least in my world, that's what I've seen as the differentiator.
Yeah.
Let's see, 22 coming in cold. Again, this might be unpopular too, but I would go no weekends, no alcohol. And again, that's different for every guy, obviously, every girl.
But 9 out of 10 brokers don't make it through their second year, so you're helping them out
For
by
sure.
saying-
Yeah, I'd say no booze, no weekends, and I'd say mass volume.
Yeah.
Because I think quality comes with quantity. Quantity comes first, and then quality. Look at Kobe. Look at all those guys, like thousands of shots. But I was like, I'm a sniper approach. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna be quality with my emails.
I hear that all the time.
It's like, dude, you don't even understand.
Yeah.
Like, quantity comes first.
Yeah.
Because you learn so much. So that would be my three things. And then obviously proximity, as David said, and understanding that the best known beats best.
So like, look at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Not the best product. Look at this like boutique little, burger spot in downtown Scottsdale. Probably has a way better product, less known. So like, just get known earlier on, I think, and be in front of more people.
Yeah, I like that.
The least emotional person in a heated situation
There you go.
is the winner.
Ah.
That's what it is for
Yeah.
me. I mean, I was
That's
very
huge.
emotional on deals at an early stage.
Same.
And at certain times, still emotional on deals, right? And you got to kind of step back and say, man, it's like, cut this crap,
You can say shit. Brokers cuss a lot.
But yeah, that's the one thing I would tell myself back then that I hope sinks in. I don't know that it would change it because you're so high drive, and you only got so many deals to work on and everything else, but that'd be the one thing.
Yeah. I think for me, and this is more of a personal thing, I was just believing in myself because I had a lot of trouble. I think from the outside looking in, had a lot of success, but didn't give myself an inch. I was like, I'm no good, which helped drive, but I think back to your thing about age, I had a lot of like ageism. I was like, I shouldn't be at this table.
This guy's 10
10
years older than me. He must know way more.
And then, like I said, that guy that's done this for 40 years and has mentored me has never actually sold a property. I can actually help him.
Right.
I have the confidence now to do that. But to know, it took me several paychecks before I could say like I'm helping people.
Yeah.
Early on, I thought I was just begging for money, and I might have been.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I think that's beaten down into everyone. Like, be humble, have humility. But like, yes, there's a time and place for that. But like, if you look up the definition of humility, is like have a low opinion of oneself.
Yeah.
So like, you got to cut that out sooner than later, kind of deal, and know your worth.
Yeah.
But like Jake said, you got to study the tools and have the tools ready so you can actually provide value.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is fun, guys. I definitely appreciate you taking the time. Any wrapped up finishing comments you want to make? Shout outs for yourself or others? You're going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, like, I wish, thinking back, I put a lot of, especially like my competitors that were older and more experienced on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And then I go and meet them and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally.
I wish I wouldn't have waited 5 or 10 years to do that, because it probably would have changed the game a long time before.
For sure.
I'll give a shout out to someone on my team named Winslow, and it's tough being on the phone. Someone answers the phone all gruff. You're brand new. You don't know what you're doing. It can be really off-putting. And I'll never forget, we went to tour apartment building, and the gentleman that showed up had been kind of rude and off-putting to him, and he met him, and I won't say any names. Very small guy, and was like, "That's the guy I'm afraid of."
Right.
If this guy's on the basketball court, let's go.
Right.
So it was like, whoever's on the other end of the line, you can't be afraid of them.
Totally.
They're just like you. Usually, what I've heard is if they're rude or put up a guard, it's because they're actually a softie. They know they're usually calling
they're
for
a laydown.
Some of
sales.
those are
Dude.
good clients to have.
Exactly.
Those soliciting signs, always knock on the door. Just lay downs.
Oh god.
Because they can't.
My first job was door-to-door sales. I got some stories for
That's
another
awesome.
day, but
Next time we should do a live cold calling session.
that'd be pretty fun. Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Rusty.
Well, thank you guys for joining. Jerrid Anderson with the Simon Anderson team. Really appreciate you sticking with us, hearing about how we got into brokerage and how we continue to succeed in this industry. Follow us on Twitter and check us out on LinkedIn. Like I said, Simon Anderson team. My name is Jerrid Anderson. Jake Wilson, David Gellner, and Derek Pedersen. Thank you.